Hi, I'm Mr. Miyagi and this is Mr. Miyagi's Workshop. Well, in this video today, I kind of promised you a couple of videos ago that we were going to do a valve adjustment on an XS650. Now, this is a 1980 XS650. The motor has been rephased, but it's not going to change how we're going to set up to adjust the valves. The only difference between the earlier models, let's say the 70s to the 80s, is that there's a slight difference in the intake gap setting. These take a, what is it, a 2000, well, let me look at my chart here to be correct. Yes. On the intake setting for the 1980s, like this one, it's a 0.0024, and the closest one I think I got was 0.0025, which is close enough to set the intakes. Now, on the older ones like the 70s, that was we would set them at 4,000s. So that's on the, up to, I think, like 79, 78, 79, somewhere there. Look in your book, it'll tell you. But the rest of it, the exhaust settings on these were set at 6,000s. So what we're going to do now is we're going to prep this, get this ready to go. So let's get to it. Okay, items that you're going to need is that you're going to need a little wrench to turn the crank on the other side so we can get the valves lined up. You want to remove your spark plugs, so you're going to need a 12 and a 10 millimeter. You're also going to need your feeler gauges and everything that apply to your bike. I've made up this little tool here. There's two of them here for fitting on, for the adjustment on your tappets there. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put those valves in the right position. So we have to watch where these are at, because you got to do the opposite side of what you're doing. So if you note, let me see here, if you note, because I'm trying to do this backwards a little bit here. What you're going to note as these are the intake and the exhaust are being able to go up and down. So what you want to do is you want to find the neutral spot on that. So on a regular cam, what we're trying to do is we've got those tappets sitting on these edges right here. So we're balancing that so that those are level, so that we're on the neutral side, the compression side of the cam. So it's lobed here. So this is the side that we're going to adjust, and then we will reverse that whole situation again, and then we'll adjust the other side. And then we're going to have these up in the air. So right now, these are tight. So we're going to move the other side and do the valve adjustment. Okay, we're going to adjust the exhaust side here. So you can hear that and see that it moves. Both are moving. So we're going to check this right off. Actually, that feels pretty good, but we'll go through the steps of doing it. We're going to loosen this up. And that's a 12 millimeter. What we're going to do is we're going to bring this down, and this being a 6,000ths, You want that to slide underneath that a little adjustment area there, and you want a little drag on that. So then you want to tighten that up. So that's what I made these up for, so that they fit those little square notches on top. And let me tighten this up. This is the tricky spot. All right, double check it. Yeah, a little loose. So, all right. Oh, that feels good. That's a nice drag across there. Sweet. All right, that one's set. So let's move to the intake side. This is a 2000 plus or 2005 adjustment on this side. And you can see that that is really, really loose there. So what we're going to do here, once again, we're going to loosen this off. I've made up several of these. All it is was a piece of metal that I notched and filed a little bit. And they just fit on there nicely. Just adjust them to fit. So let's get the 2000s in here. Want a nice little drag on that. But like I said, this is the tough part of getting this tightened down, because you got to kind of hold everything in place. And it's a little easier when I'm not having a camera that I have to work around. All right, I just snugged it a little bit. Let me give this just a little bit more of a tweak. And this is another technique. You can tighten this nut down just a little bit to where you can still turn the adjustment screw itself. And then you just keep playing with that. Keep tightening till you get a nice feel on it. And I like to where there's resistance, but not a lot of resistance. So yeah, you see how it bubbles that or bends that feeler gauge, but you can still move it back and forth in there. And that's about right. All right, so I've tightened that down. Oh yeah, it feels really good. So the next stage is that we're going to adjust the other side. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to rotate these until these come up. And that's usually top bed. I have it marked right here for mine that I've marked on the shaft. And it's basically on this one, it's a 277 degree setup, but on a stock one would be 360. So your mark would be opposite. So you could use top dead center every time on that. But I'm trying to line this up. So let's go to the other side and we'll get set up over there. So once again, what we've done on the other side there is that these are rotated around and they're both sitting up. So, the intake and exhaust are sitting up on top of the cam. And these on this side are riding right here on the flat area where you can get the proper adjustment. Okay, so we're going to adjust the intake. I want to check it first. Let's see what we've got. Oh yeah, that's pretty loose. So we'll take our 12 millimeter and loosen that up. And then we'll slide that underneath. We'll give that the 12 millimeter nut a little bit of a snug. Not much. Oh yeah, I like that feel right there. So that's a good feel. Okay, so let's tighten this up. We'll grab our little adjusting bar here. Now you may have to do this several times to get it right. Yeah, see, I loosen it. So when you tighten that, sometimes it'll actually raise that just a hair. So if you back that nut off just a little bit. All right. So as I tighten this way, I want to hold pressure against this square nut up here, the square shaft, I want to go this way with my holding pressure. Double check this. Oh yeah, it feels good. Let's go again. All right. Well, that's a good feel. So now we can move on to the exhaust. Once again, we're going to grab the 12 millimeter, but I'm going to grab the 6/1000 and see how, whoa, that's really loose. Because I could hear this thing making noise, so I knew it was time for a valve adjustment. A lot more clicking. So we'll get our 6/1000 out here. Oh yeah, it's a good feel. So just run that down snug. And then we'll hold pressure. Again, we're holding pressure this way as we tighten. And the whole idea here is not to get in a hurry. You may not get it the first couple of tightenings, but you want a nice, decent drag on it, but you're still not where you can't move it. I'm going to block your vision here a little bit, or try not to, but it's just real tough to get this all into place. Oh yeah. There we go. Perfect. Okay, one thing, I just make my life a little easier. I pull the spark plugs out, and then we're also going to check this, because remember we ran into a problem with the other one. That one seems to be fine, but we will lubricate it. And here again, you just want to inspect everything just to see what's going on. But pulling the spark plugs out make a big difference. I also find it a lot easier if you can put a wrench on the crank and move it in a counterclockwise position until you get it in. Because what that ends up doing, it just makes it easier. Some guys will actually use the kickstart, or they'll put it in gear and lock the rear wheel. I find it's just easier to come over here, and then that way I can glance over and see what the valves are doing up and down in the position to where I can adjust one side or the other. And this electronic ignition looks good. Snapback is just beautiful. And so now it's just basically putting everything back together. I also pulled the throttle cable off just to give me a little bit more access, so I'm not working around that. One of the other things I did while I was in the process, I ended up cleaning and resetting the spark plugs at the right setting. These are set at a rate around 28 to 30 thousandths. Told me put our spark plug back in. Put our front one in. Some people may ask, why is this different? This cover different than the other covers? Well, when they first were building these, they had a compression release that was built on this, and you used it was set up with a compression release lever and the start switch. So when you pulled on that start switch, it also pushed on this valve so that it would turn over easier and start. So there's just a little history on the Yamahas. And one thing I did too in this process is that I did lube my mechanical advance here. I just put some more of that spray on in the area here to help it work. Well, let's see if this thing will start. Choke fuel and ignition. Well, I hope you've liked this video on valve adjustment. It's not that big a deal. Just got to take your time, having the proper tools, but it's just simple stuff. Just, you know, getting that cam in the right placement so everything you can do the adjustment. But if you have any questions or comment, you can put them in the comment section below, or you can send them to my email address at tmiyagi@hotmail.com. Now, I will be taking this bike on a trip. I'm headed down to Arizona for Chopper Town Camp Out. And it's going to be about a 1,600-mile ride just for me to get there. And hopefully the weather will be okay. And last year I went down, I took my other XS650, but I trailered it down. This one here I'm going to ride down. So we'll see how that goes. Just a little update there. So now if you've liked this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget that ringy dingy button for the next episode coming up. So this is Mr. Miyagi saying be safe out there. Hope to see you on the road. Ciao.